Okay, moving on. First thing, my mate Jeff, he worked for care directorate in one of the major English cities. His job as a social worker was specialised and very difficult one. It was dealing with children, young people who had been, some of them had been murderers, had killed people, carried the bodies around in suitcases, chucked them in canals. Extremely violent, difficult children damaged at a very early age, and the system thought they can be redeemed, but also dealing with children that evidently were just bad, and they would move them on somewhere else. It's a difficult job, and I've spoken with professional psychiatrists about this situation, and they don't seem to appreciate what one of the workers told me. If you're a professional, I understand from a psychiatrist's point of view, doesn't matter how troubled the child, the person you're dealing with, you can look at it objectively, then afterwards put the case in the box, shut the box, and then move on with your life, having done your best, and that's it, and you go on to the next case. That there is no shadow of the previous case on you, but the practical experience of people dealing with these children, as I said, is that every time you deal with somebody from, and these aren't troubled backgrounds, these are terrible backgrounds, violence, drugs and everything, and it's caused great damage. And what Jeff was saying is that it is impossible, and his mate as well, it is impossible to walk away from these cases without carrying a thinner sliver of a shadow of the trauma of your response to what happened to these kids. You will, over the years, accumulate loads of wafer thin shadow, and it will accumulate all around you and in you, in your heart, in your soul, having to deal with such damaged people. So what Jeff's mates told him is there are two kinds of people, and it's how they respond to the accumulating little shadows, these wafer thin shadows that become massive heavy clouds. There are two kinds of people, he said. There are those people who realise what's going on, that you're accumulating the trauma, karma, whatever you want to call it, to somebody else, and you get out. You get out as quickly as you possibly can, and you might survive and just walk away with some horrible stories, and that's it, and horrible experiences, but objectively you've moved on and you can live your life well. Other people, for some reason, know that this is going on, know that they are being damaged, and they do nothing. They just stay there. Now, they are on a fast track, I'm told. This is how they seem to look at their colleagues, those people who succumbed. People are taking their own lives. People have had cancers, had strokes, had just been appallingly unwell, and the job has broken them because they couldn't walk away before these shadows overwhelmed them. I say this, my friend Jeff did walk away, and he now just tells stories. He tells me he occasionally does think back to some cases which were pure tragedy, but he has moved on and he is living a better life. I just wanted to leave that one there with you as a story, just in case it fits. I think it fits so many of us. It's working in an environment that is damaging to you, whether it's the work you're doing that's damaging you, or whether it's the people you're working with or for who are damaging you, then maybe a decision point should be reached. And I'll drop this one as being a very heavy, thoughtful little time bomb. There are only two options in situations like this: stay or go. And in extreme situations, live or die. Okay, we'll stop that one and we'll go on to the next one. Apologies for starting with a frightening story, but life is full of frightening events, and you'd be surprised how close you are to people who've lived that kind of trauma. I'm talking about, as I said, I was talking about a very good friend, extremely good friend, somebody I cared about enormously, and I can see how he carried it, and I'm glad he left. Anyway, so I hope in the meantime that the Grand Wibbly Wobbly has been, for those of you aware of it, the Grand Wibbly Wobbly has been depositing thoughts, now that you're aware that the thoughts and messages are all around you at all times. Thoughts that make you reflect differently on your situation, on your circumstances, and bring your unlived life into sharp, stark focus. So you can look at it and think, I'm going to die. The Stoics tell me I'm going to die, but the Stoics also encourage me by saying that if I stop wasting time, there are those things I've always wanted to do that I can achieve. As long as I don't waste time. Time is something that terrifies me. Every now and then I have the shudders, because I'm aware how quickly a day goes by, and I'm also aware that because of my paranoia about time passing so quickly, that motivating me to work hard makes time pass even quicker. So time is an important element in our life. It is a currency that can never recover from. You can lose money, you can regain money. Time you can't. Once time is gone, it will never come back. And the opportunity to do things yesterday may not be there today or tomorrow. So for those of you who have a list of things that they haven't done in the previous life up to this moment, you are aware that you only have a limited time to do things. Okay, so, and it's something that struck me over the last couple of weeks. It's been a terrible, long, dark, wet, miserable winter, and talking to friends, I say I'm still waiting for spring to arrive. And the problem is, I've got used to the idea of waiting for spring to arrive, that I'm waiting and haven't done anything. And I realise by this time every year I will have, most have ever grown, about 64 tomatoes in a big greenhouse I moved from the top of the road down here and rebuilt. I've only got 10, and I bought those in a shop because I'd missed the chance. I'd allowed time to hypnotise me, as it does. Maybe it's the conscious mind again, trying to sort of, just chill out, don't worry too much about anything, just be inert. So I've been inert, and spring hasn't arrived, and even though we're a month after schedule, I haven't done anything, and I'm starting from scratch now, and I hate myself for it, because I've allowed opportunity and time just to slip away. I missed it. What I could control, I didn't control. It doesn't matter what's going on around you, make preparations. I didn't. So I'm now starting from nothing. And as I said, it's a month late. I can only hope I can get the plants elsewhere. But they will all have to be coming from specialist places, because it's just been too cold for anybody to be able to grow them and sustain them in their houses. So the mentality of just sitting and waiting for life to happen has proven to be a false hope. And also, in certain terms, waiting for, we've deferred responsibility to somebody else to save our lives. Don't know why, but we do. Maybe it's a restrictive mind trying to take us away from making silly decisions about what we want to do. We're waiting for the go-ahead from an authority figure, but we don't know who this authority figure is, and it's like an unconscious directive we have in us, just saying, just wait, you'll be told when to go. And it's not going to happen because the only one that's going to tell you to get going is you. And there's nobody better at getting you going than you, because you are the only person who knows you. You're the expert in you. Nobody else is. They may try and contrive you as a creature of their expectations. In other words, people will try and bully you into being what they want you to be, to live up to their expectations. But if that's not you, that's not you. And so you've got a tension between who you know you are inside and what the world is trying to turn you into. So authority figures and wasting time means that the time that you have left to you to give a meaning to your life and to achieve those things on the list of things you want to do, those restrictions are causing you great damage, and you will reach one day when you just run out of everything: time, health, well-being, friends, and there's only you left, and your last breath is not that far away from you, and you've done bugger all apart from accommodate other people. Just a quick reference to what I just said, scary stuff this week. It remind you of a song. Maybe you've heard it, maybe you've not paid attention to the words, and this is what we're about. It's about using the same words and finding different meaning and motivation. And there's great motivation in a line from a song by Pink Floyd. It's On the Dark Side of the Moon. I'm trying to remember which song it's from. I imagine it would be Time. And the line is, "No one told you when to run, you missed the starting gun," which so many of us have. But, late starter, let's get going. Okay, so, right, next point. The company you keep says a lot about you. I find this funny for the simple reason that the closest companion to me is the cat, Shadow. He's moved. He's on my bed now, probably. Now, who your mate is says a lot about you. Now, he is cold-hearted, callous, vicious, greedy, and he's a nasty little killer, because yesterday he killed a little baby rabbit. I said it's not spring here, but I think things, animals and nature are doing their best to get going, and the collective mind of rabbits has got them breeding, and it was a little baby, and the little bastard went and killed it. But he says, it's my job, I'm a cat. Okay, fine. But he also gambles, and he's gambling with my money. And when I challenged him about it, he said, "You didn't think I was going to gamble with my own money, do you?" And I said, "You've never had any money." He said, "Maybe." So, I know for a fact that we've got a nice little cat there. Nice. We've got a little cat there who is doing really well, and he's also a liar, and he refuses to pay for the rent, and he licks the gravy off the meat and then just leaves it alone. So if you're going to look at the cat and says something about me, then either I'm callous, vicious, nasty, cold, gravy licker, or I'm a bloody fool who's been mugged by one. I'd go for the latter. Anyway, he's good company, mostly. He's good company, albeit an expense. So, I've said before, he used to hang around with people on a Friday night, handful of beers, and then on the way back it would be the mandatory chips, peas, gravy in a foam tray, and a fried egg on top of it, laid delicately across it by the lovely people in the Chinese takeaway on the way home. Their security was based, their needs were based on security. And the security was that things don't change, which is the ultimate victory for the conscious mind, for the restrictive mind, for the limiting mind. Ultimate. And there was a tension between us, mentioned tension earlier, between two states. Now, there was tension there earlier, and I didn't want to live that life. I just, God knows what, there had been a thought of a little time bomb gone off. I think it was when you were sitting there relatively sober one night and just watching everybody else drunk. Not losing respect for them, not at all. It's their life. Everybody worked hard. Everybody did the best they could. But it wasn't me. And they're lovely people. But they weren't my people, I realised, because I had had enough of belly full of beer in the same place, talking about what we were going to do. One day we'll do this, one day we'll do that, one day we'll leave this town, as Terry Pratchett used to say, one day. And I'm convinced, thinking back, that the conversations we had probably more or less every Friday night would have been the same type of conversation. And I wonder, if you filmed it over a long period of time, whether we would be talking about the same thing in the same sequence before heading for the chips, peas, gravy and a fried egg. God, it was hideous. One day should have been last year. One day should have been about 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. The life unlived, the list of things you've always wanted to do, but responsibility stopped you doing it. Or the stagnancy, stability, inertia of a Friday night handful of booze and chips, peas and vinegar did it to you. I stepped out of it, and as I said, it created a bit of tension again, but it's alright. It's alright. And the thing is, the minute you step out of that, you are a different person. You are a different person to them immediately, because you let them down. You've created instability unexpectedly, and people panic and people. But as I said, I've nothing but deep affection and respect for them, and when we meet, we meet quite decently, and that's fine. And then you've got the others, the doers. They're the ones who don't say anything. They're the ones who have got a bright, shiny, cherry-coloured 1000cc motorbike that they've been on and gone round Europe in, and maybe even shipped across to America, or hired a bike in America and done Route 66, or gone across America on their bikes, following Jack Reacher, Lee Child's character, his kind of journey across America, just footloose and to see where your nose takes you. They've done these things. They don't talk about them. They've been and done it, and they have firm memories about it. And that's what I wanted. And I knew that it would be impossible to just fit into that kind of a group of people, because lack of ambition earlier on meant that I couldn't cope financially. So I had to do things alone, and that's fine. And I found out that I wasn't isolated. I found that I liked solitude, and I liked the idea of not distracting myself from what I wanted to do was good. And things I wanted to do, learn language, travel, just going to art galleries and be baffled, look for meaning, can't find the meaning, this is daft, and just be amused by it, and occasionally be intrigued, and like these thoughtful little time bombs, now and then just see something, just turns things inside out, and it gives you a profound emotion. It just moves you in unexpected ways, and life's brilliant when you start doing that. When you go out of your way, you go to places you haven't been before, and you just see something that just turns you inside out, and your view of the world has changed, because the filter that stopped you seeing it before has gone. And it's one of these things, once you've seen something, you can't unsee it, like damagingly. Once you've said something cruel to somebody, you can never unsee it. But I'm thinking in terms of things that have moved me and helped me move forward, and that those are the important things in life. I remember them. I can remember them in many dimensions, visual, auditory, just overwhelming emotion, surprise and humour. And had I stayed in the pub, I wouldn't have had that. I would have had the scent of chips, peas, gravy and fried egg balanced precariously on top, and a plastic fork, usually blue, if you remember them. And finally, I worked in a community that was so damaged, lost all industry. And it happened over a long period of time, slow decline. And there is a chip on the shoulder. And the problem with a chip on the shoulder is that if anybody dares have a go at being successful, they will knock you down. And it reminds me of a line. Again, a song, rock song. It's by Bruce Springsteen. I think I saw him when he said it to me personally, one of 30,000 people. Either it was Villa Park in Birmingham or it was Roundhay Park in Leeds. Both magnificent concerts. And Bruce speaks, he just talks. He's a talker. And between songs, and he'll lead into the next songs, and he's got stories. And he said, and this was profound, and he said, people will kick you till you're down. We know this. And then he said, they will carry on kicking you. So, don't you kick yourself when you're down. Okay, we move on. It's just a brief reminder of something we've said before, that important ideas, significant ideas in your life have a quantum of energy attached to them. They have an energy that surrounds them, and you need that energy to realize that project, that idea, that dream. You would need to have that energy. And then once you start talking about it, the energy is dissipated. You've given a portion of the energy to somebody else over there. You might have given the whole idea to somebody else over there, and they take your idea and they make it happen while you're still dreaming about it. So never talk about this. There's such a thing also about thinking too much has never done anybody much good. So don't think too much about your dreams, about the things you want to do, things, the important part of the unlived life. Don't think too much about it. Just think gently, quietly, plan quietly, act quietly. Give them a surprise. Hi, how are you? I'm fine. Where are you? Oh, Tahiti. What? Things like that. Think of your life as in pleasant little surprises for people. Do things that maybe amuse other people, people who like you, people who understand you and what you're doing. Just surprise them with things like that. Dreams are real things, and don't let them become fantasies by talking about them too much or spending too much time thinking about them too much. Okay? The more you talk about a dream, then it becomes a fantasy, and a fantasy is something that never happens, or nearly never happens. We've mentioned before that winning the lottery is probably a fantasy, and people do win that, but it's one out of 63 million, and that's a lot of people. So that's not going to happen. Have it as plan B or plan C, have it as safety net, but don't have it as plan A. There's a story about a tranche of a population in Ireland who have decided that, yep, it's inevitable, they will win the lottery, and they've settled down to wait. That's what they do, they wait. They wait for the lottery win to come in, and they got a bag next to them, and in that bag are those things they want to realise, and they probably talked about it over a cup of tea with 3 sugars. And the car's in there, the house is in there, smart young bride or smart young husband, whatever is in there as well. But they're waiting, and I think I waited too long. And what happens is that a dream becomes a fantasy, and a fantasy does not happen. Well, it doesn't happen to me, and I accept that. But I do have it as a couple of quid a week on on the lottery, and it's a safety net. And once it's done, I forget about it and such. Yeah, and you got to make an effort to achieve your dream. That's it, quietly. As I said, quietly, gently. Just think about it quietly, plan quietly, and just do it quietly. And then phone somebody and tell them you're on top of Everest and you're there and you've brought, I don't know, a flock of chickens up with you to the top of Everest and to check the Daily Mirror. Okay, that's that one. Yeah. And this is probably nothing to do with anything, but it's just struck me as being odd about how people can protect themselves into corners and think they're doing something significant at the same time, whereas all they're doing is being inert in a different way. And I'll get into I won't get into trouble with this because I'm not going to name it, but somebody will work it out. Apparently, allegedly, putatively, there is an underwater UFO extraterrestrial base off an island which is 15 miles that way somewhere and off the coast, and allegedly spaceships have been seen rising up and out of the water. I'm surprised you haven't heard about it. There are no photos, it's just rumours. There are people, I don't know, do they persuade themselves they see it? There's people believe it, and I'm thinking, oh God, poor people, you know. But it's a distraction from their life. Maybe they got a boring life. Maybe it's the conscious mind keeping them occupied with something daft and futile and maybe amusing. And what you do is, it's a vulnerability, so therefore you set up great protections around it. And one way of doing that one is to create a technical language about UFOs. Have it as a lingua franca, known to you and your mates, you know, the non-doers. You know, anytime now we're going to leave this town and we're going to go to the city and we're going to do things, yeah. But in the meantime, you protect your vulnerability with projects like the underwater UFO base, and no photos, no evidence, just rumour, just hearsay. They've heard somebody say that they heard somebody say that they heard somebody say. And maybe we're doing that. Maybe we're doing that. But I think what they should be doing is, in order to move on, is establish if the damn thing is there or not. And if they're going to do anything, then they should buy a submarine and go down there. Maybe they could start with raising money from raffles and things, you know. I don't know. But people, we do protect our vulnerabilities in strange ways, and in extreme situations we protect our vulnerabilities with alcohol, with drugs and such. And I hope you're not doing that one. If you are, I hope you are getting out of it. That I've no, again, I've got to make sure I say this clearly, give no advice here at all. If I give advice, then it's a mistake. I give no legal, psychological, biological, pharmacological, legal advice at all. Just talking into the wind, and if the wind carries them to you and they sort of make sense for you, that's okay. That's okay. They are my Tibetan prayer flags and prayer stones for you. The flag upon which the prayers are written will unravel and will be carried around the world, and because you know you will recognize the thoughts that are appropriate to you and your life, and how you can liberate yourself to achieve those things you've always wanted to do and you've never done. So yeah, maybe we should set up a GoFundMe page to get a submarine for them. It's not that deep actually, because a friend of mine used to, I'm not sure what they used to call it, trawl diving. They just tie each other, a rope between each other, and they go along the bottom. It's not that deep. I should have, my friend has now passed on. Jack has now passed on, who's chief engineer of the ships. He would have told us if there was an underwater base there. Yeah, I think he'd be laughing at them though. Right, so as I said, one of these days is going to be the last one of these days, and one of the days should have been 1 years ago. Should have done things years ago, but let's start here, right? Think about your plan quietly, act quietly. That's it. And oh yeah, may the grand wibbly wobbly whisper useful things in your ear when you least expect it. There we go. Here we go again. So, look after yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. Be brave. Be realistic. And yeah, check who you are relative to the world. And check whether that person is you. Because you need to be you. Because you are the one who needs to achieve things. Learn language, climb a mountain, fall in love in a foreign place. Have the courage to be who you want to be, who you should be, who you are. Lovely to speak with you again. Thank you for visiting Thoughtful Little Time Bombs, and if you'd care to subscribe, like, share, comment, then please do. Bye. Hi, before you go, if you'd be kind enough to subscribe, to like, to share, and even comment, I'd appreciate it very much. Thank you very much on behalf of myself and Shadow. He's having a kip, but I'm sure he'd be thanking you from the heart of his bottom. Have a good day. Have the best day. Bye.